into other markets. Our blockchain is actually fairly brilliantly operating across the world right now. We've just made so much progress, and we have more assets that we haven't fully disclosed yet. So I've been working with other groups, other cryptocurrency publishers in the market. They've been identifying the Meta1 Coin as amazing, absolutely amazing, and grossly undervalued at the price of $22.22 right now. I then have been discussing with these various groups. We have a lot more assets that we're ready to assign, and so just basically performing on all these production systems and all these integrations and completing just about 95% of all the milestones. The value of the coin it's gone up a lot, let's just say. And so we have been working on the reevaluation of the coin in its private status as it is right now. So on Saturday, we're going to elaborate more completely the new valuations of the coin. Also, we have a fresh cut, highly updated white paper that will be published sometime, probably by Friday, and it's profound in what we've achieved. And so really that's what I had, Dave, and it's very exciting. We've made just amazing accomplishments in the last several months.
Yeah, and I think if we can basically kind of give a little teaser out there, is the rate at $22.22 per coin was established in the early assets that you have, because that was the asset value. And what you're saying is that the asset value has absolutely taken off. So the value of the coin is actually going to be far more than the $22, but you're still selling it for $22 right now. And is that correct?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And you're going to be making...
It's absolutely correct.
Yeah, and you're going to be making an announcement, if I'm understanding you, on Saturday, and then I will send out more information. I'll send out a special newsletter on Monday that the new value of the coin will be increasing, but for a limited period of time, you will still be able to buy it. Folks, let me just be very, very frank. You can buy the coin at $22.22, and within a month it may double. Is that correct, Robert?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not going to do any preliminary stuff, folks, but he's going to give the full explanation of what's going on. He's going to be explaining who he has been working with that are other people and other crypto coins that are bringing in literally billions and billions of dollars of revenue every year. They've been in the business for over 5 years, and they've looked at everything that we're doing in Meta1, and they're just saying this one is absolutely outstanding. This has the potential to be one of the top 3 coins out there in the world with what is done with the assets backing it up. Robert's got new assets. He's going to be explaining those. And the people at the workshop are the ones that are going to get the first opportunity for this. If I can just put a little teaser out there, folks. If you think it's the expense of coming to the workshop, you attend the workshop and the information you're going to get there, you're going to make probably scores of times more money than the cost of the workshop from what you're going to learn there. And being able to be, because for the people that are here, a part of the Sedona Connection, that are on my newsletter list and that also attend the workshops, they're going to have the opportunity to buy the coin at the $22.22, but yet it's going to be going up. Now, I want to make sure I'm correct on that. Is that right, Robert?
Yes, absolutely. It's going to definitely be going up. We've been saying that for a while, and it's coming to fruition. In addition to the asset value, just the sheer functionality that we've developed. This is way too much to explain right now, but I'll explain it in its entirety on Saturday. In addition to the fresh cut white paper, will be very verbose explanation of all the achievements the Meta1 Coin team has completed. Additionally, driving up the value in addition to asset value, just the pure functionality, the central banks that are working with us that are coming on our exchange, the huge other markets that we're bringing on board, the 8 different gateways of all the major markets that are integrated with our exchange and our currency. it's profound. It's overwhelming, to see it all, and to get a third person's expert opinion on where we are today and what our valuations are proposed to be, just based on market. It's exciting. It's probably the most exciting conversations I've had recently. And so yes, you're correct, Dave. And as you know, I'm very understated in everything I say. So in a very understated way, it's profoundly going to be going up. So, and I can detail that on Saturday. So
let me make one other little comment. We've had these people that have just been viciously attacking us and calling us scammers. And they've been telling everybody, call the SEC, and report them. And here's what's so ironic. Robert, it was last night when we were talking, you told me that you had recently had about a 1-hour discussion with a man from the SEC, and the fact that he was so impressed with everything that we're doing that's absolutely upfront and legal, he came in and bought coins. Was that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the person I was speaking with, have been working with, is with the SEC and a legal counsel for over a decade plus. And when he understood the entirety of our presentation and our legal disposition and the architecture that we've created, he was extremely impressed. He had very little to say regarding any shortcomings or alleged illegalities. There was no illegalities. He was just absolutely impressed. And yes, he's coming on board very strong with investing in the Meta1 Coin. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. And Dave, we've known that this is a very, very legal and very legitimate operation. But one thing the SEC resource did say, he said that we are leading the way with KYC, which is Know Your Client, and our equity position, meaning the asset valuation and the asset itself. He said we're leading the way in equity. We're superseding anything ever considered, out there right now, and that's including typical securities by the SEC, not just cryptocurrencies or digital assets as we call them.
Yeah.
So it's very, very positive meeting, Dave.
Good. So, okay, then anything else you want to share with us tonight? If not,
I'm great. Just thank you very much.
Okay.
Have a great evening. Looking forward to meeting everyone on Saturday. And Dave and Michael, see you on Saturday. And Blanca, talk to you very soon. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, thanks, Robert.
All right,
okay,
everyone.
You bet.
Thanks. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, folks.
Hey, Dave?
Yes, go ahead, Blanca.
The last workshop that you did in Charlotte, Alan and I were able to go, and you had Robert join us just on, was it Skype that you put him on?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Robert spent a good amount of time just with Q&A with the audience there, and a lot of people were very impressed with what they heard, and this was before the announcement. So guys, if you're thinking about whether to go to the workshop or not, of course Dave has a wonderful program, but if you get the chance to meet Robert and to learn a lot, not only will you learn a lot about Meta1, but you'll learn a lot about crypto and other subjects that surround the offering, that it's very good for people, especially people who are in the forefront of the movement towards the new monetary systems, new political structures, new societal structures, new consciousness, all that. You're going to learn a lot. So if you get a chance to go, I would. If you're sitting thinking, should I go? I think you should. Just with Robert's presentation, I think you're going to be very, very pleased. So that's my 2 cents on that, because we were very impressed by what we learned, and he was just on Skype with you there. So with him being there in person, I think it would be a great opportunity.
Well, great. Well, thank you. And, I wanted to make sure that it was his announcement and not mine, but he basically is saying this is they have brought in all kinds of new assets, and they're even extending beyond just the fine art. And the value of the coin is going to go up, extensively. But those of you that listen to this program and those of you that attend the workshop on Saturday, you will still be able to buy the coin at the still initial rate of the $22.22, but within a couple of weeks it's going to be up far, far, far higher than that. And I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying, the cost of the workshop, you'll make scores more than that. And those at the workshop on Saturday are going to have the absolute opportunity to be at the very front of the line of being able to acquire the coins, at the lower rate, when it's basically just within, a week to a week and a half, it's going to go way up. And after the workshop on Saturday, that's Robert's announcement, and then I get to send out a special newsletter on about Monday or Tuesday, and we'll be announcing, and then we'll be letting them know what dates the new rate will go in, and the people will still have until that time, up until that date, to be able to buy it at the lower rate. So I can't say this exactly, but it's like, where do you know you can go out and you can invest in something, and within a week to 2 weeks it doubles in value is what it does. And I'm just using that as an illustration. So it's nice to know that that is going to be available, and he's making that available to us here, in the Sedona Connection. So now with that, then Michael, you're on the program, buddy. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic.
Okay. Now,
how are you liking Florida?
I'm loving it here in Florida. Now, here's what I did. What I had mentioned, I went ahead and took the live streaming off of Facebook, and we're recording this, on Blog Talk Radio, but I'm also doing a video recording on the computer. So I will still be able to put out a recording of the program, after I upload it to YouTube. I'll still have that, it's just not going to be a live stream, but it's going to be a recording with me here. So, but yes, I'm here with you in Florida now, and it's absolutely wonderful to be here, and I'm glad I finally am able to get you back on the program. It's been a while since you've been here with us live on the program, and your story is always so outstanding. And now, just to let you know, Michael, we have about an hour and 40 minutes left on the program. Now, we don't have to take up all that time, but, that's how much time that I have left. And it's pretty much, what you want to do and kind of telling your story, and I'll interact with you a little bit. And then I do know you want to go in and talk about what's happening with your disc, because that is absolutely amazing of what's taking place there. So, with that, buddy, anything else that I'll just say it's yours. Go ahead, okay?
What's interesting is how it's all revolving around Florida, everything that's happening. And, a good place to start with all of this, because we can just tell your listeners that because of being on Richard Hoagland's radio show recently, Richard Hoagland was Walter Cronkite's science advisor. He is pretty much the ambassador for NASA with the media, He's the guy that found space on Mars, which has become famous. But so during this interview with Richard, he says, Michael, we know your story sounds pretty crazy to a lot of people, but the numbers you're bringing to the table, he told me NASA has been looking into how energy works multidimensionally. He calls it hyperdimensional physics. And he said, your numbers are right on the money. And that also, he told me, we can get into this, that these same exact numbers, which are all based on 432, that they're already encoded into our precessional cycle, which really twisted my noodle. But because of this, he arranged for one of the world's leading biophysicists to look into my work that was, I guess, intuited, inspired by the Anunnaki with me. They put me on a crash course of new light physics, and how they did it was they used crop circles as almost like a chalkboard, and we can get into those specific crop circles, but it was all on the importance of 432, its relationship to the seven-pointed star, and lo and behold, this biophysicist looks into these discs that I make, which it's the 432 image itself. I'm a musician, so I recorded myself playing my A note on my guitar, but I was meticulous in making sure I was tuned properly. Not to today's musical standard, which is 440 hertz. I know this probably doesn't make any sense to anyone that's not a musician, but hertz is a way of that we measure sound. How many humps in a waveform. So, for example, 10 hertz would be 10 humps in that waveform. So 443, let me retract that, 432 hertz is actually just 432 little mountains in that waveform. And what you find out is this number of 432 has been encoded by the Anunnaki through every way that they could possibly encode it. And we can get into all that, but the exciting thing is what the biophysicists found out is this is restructuring water in a way that they've never seen before. It gets into, we really, you know, up and before all this, I thought water was water, you know, but here to find out our tap water is almost dead. There's no energy left in it because of the chemicals we put it through and the filtration processes and running it down long pipes. Well, once you take a glass of water they found and put it on top of one of my 432 energy discs, that it not only brought back the energy into the water droplet, but it focused it into a beam of energy. She said that they've never seen anything like it. That any time a faith healer or other water restructuring energetic systems, that it would make the water molecule, like, if you could see it under a microscope, it looks like there's a little miniature sun down inside the water droplet. And any other water restructuring that they've done, it actually makes the pattern get bigger and more diffuse and brighter. Whereas this, they said it's actually making a smaller light fingerprint, but it's brighter. And she said it's almost like if you picture a magnifying glass. That, you know, say you're going to burn a leaf, and as you move the magnifying glass up, the light disc on the leaf gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it catches fire, right? Mm-hmm. Well, they said that that's what is happening, that this is doing the water. And but interestingly enough, this gets into A.R. Borden. And one of the first things he told me, first of all, do you want to do a little recap of who A.R. Borden is?
Yeah, but let me do that. While you've been talking, I've been showing, you know, the coaster and the disc. And folks, let's just say if you're capturing what he's saying is that what the scientists that are saying they've never seen anything like it, this is basically just an inert picture. This is the picture of the water that he took, you know, and he strummed his guitar, the note A at 432 hertz, and then they took that and it, you know, and it created water vibrations, and this is what had happened. And then you take this picture, and the scientists are saying we have never seen anything like this. There's basically, it's an inert picture, but it's creating an energy field is what it's doing. And it's showing that when they take regular tap water, which is basically has become dead water, like you said, because of the filtration, the chemicals, and the piping system it goes through, and you can take a glass, you can take a bottle, whatever, and set it on this coaster, and within 15 to 20 minutes, it not only totally restructures the water, it puts the energy back into it. And folks, you can go on Michael's Facebook page, and you will see that there's people that are already talking about what is happening. I just noticed that when I place the water on this coaster, everything changes. The water is smoother, it's sweeter to the taste, all the structure of everything, you feel it differently within your body. And what it's doing is bringing the life energy back to the water is what it's doing. And Michael, let me just make a couple other comments, because I remember in our discussion, you know, the scientists didn't come right out and say this, but they were kind of a little lightly inferring as saying, we've never seen anything like this, but we may have basically for the first time, we may have found what's called cold fusion energy. Because it's an inert picture that is creating an energy field all on its own, and it's totally changing, not only in water. You got people who are Reiki workers, and they're telling you that they can take these discs, and while the person's laying, you know, on the you know, the massage table, they'll put these discs on their chest, and the people can feel the energy coming through. Healers are also noticing there's a total difference when they're using these coasters and these discs in their healing issues, because it's like what you said. What is it? 70 to 80% of our body is water. So even if you put this on your body, it's restructuring the water within your body as well. It's bringing life energy back into the water in your body. So it's
I'll
quite
tell you a funny story. Sometimes at these trade shows and conferences and whatnot, a whole day of people walking up and going, well, what is this? What's this do? It kind of gets, it's a lot. So I got to a point, I'm like, can I just show you? And I would go in a circular motion above their forehead, maybe about an inch in front of their forehead. And so many people, you can actually see, like, their eyes, like, twitter. And this one girl, her eyes just like, and she opened her eyes and said, I'll buy that. That's all it takes. Yeah, you can feel the energy from it. And truly what I heard it's doing is it puts out such a high frequency that's truly cosmic. To get into this, E equals MC squared, right? Everyone knows that. E is energy, M is mass, and C is the speed of light. But quantum physicists now tell us everything is both particle and wave. So that's only the particle part of the equation. It's right there, M equals mass. So where's the wave function? And what you find out is 432 squared, meaning 432 times 432, is the speed of light within 1% accuracy, times mass equals energy. So I think somehow in this education from the Anunnaki, it's proven this, that the only frequencies that are truly harmonics of light are 432-based frequencies. When squared becomes C, squared, times mass equals energy. Well, what's mass in this equation? It's photons, light. Yeah. So what I want to say is it's very strange to me because I just realized this recently. You're familiar with that letter to Michael from A.R. Borden of the NSA?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am.
In it, which is 2008, by the way, he said, Michael, you have music in you, but not only in the ability to play the guitar and write songs, but he said to create matter, you need certain frequencies. And not only certain frequencies, but certain frequencies in certain sequences. And he said that I would be learning this from them, which I did. They're the first people that turned me on to 432. And it began with my communication with the Anunnaki. But he said that when you know the proper notes and you're tuned properly to the Pythagorean scale, which is all about having your A note tuned to 432, and that becomes like the standard for all your other notes to be tuned to. And now because of this, I've started talking to some of the leading biophysicists in the world, and they told me that looking at water underneath of one of these kind of like Turian photography microscopes, that if the frequency doesn't equal 9, there's no effect whatsoever. So meaning 4 plus 3 plus 2 is 9. It's lower octave. 2 plus 1 plus 6 is 9. It's lower octave. 108 equals 9. So it's interesting that when you find out, Tesla said once we understood the magnificence of the 3, the 6, and the 9, that we would unlock a key to the universe. Well, you know what the Anunnaki just revealed to me was 369 implies a Fibonacci sequence that lands on 432. Meaning most people start a Fibonacci sequence with 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and so on and so forth. Every number is derived from the 2 before it. But when you start with 369, 3 and 6 is 9. 9 and 6 is 15. It just keeps on going. You'll find the number hits 432 in that Fibonacci sequence. I think some profound things are being uncovered with this because, like you said, first of all, it's a passive device. There's no wires going through it. There's no battery in it. Yet it is putting forth an energetic field, and somehow it's communicating with the water. And the water is responding to the communication and restructuring itself to bring more chi or prana back into the molecule. And I asked the biophysicist, I said, truly, it's something from nothing. It's, at the beginning, in tap water, there's no energy. But once you set it on top of one of my 432 energy devices, because there's more than just a disc. I've begun making coasters, which was a no-brainer, I'm like, hello. But it's profound at the effect that it has on the water, and it's just a picture. It's just a visual representation. Mind you, it's a very high-resolution photograph that I got from the scientists at Simoscope who did the imaging for me of my guitar tuned properly. Blu-ray is 1,080 by 1,080 pixels. This was 3,000 by 3,000, the image I got. So there's a ton of actual data in the image. Then I bring in through a method of encasing it within quartz crystal glass with copper wrap. But with all this, I want to tell you a little background on all of this that no one really knows, and it has everything to do with Florida. That sound cool?
Yeah. Now, you wanted me to share a little bit about the background of A.R. Borden and how he came into that. Should I go ahead and do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what started this, because this being tested by a NASA physicist, consulting biophysicist, it's what he was talking about. So somehow he knew back in 2008. But yeah, I think that'd be a cool thing for your listeners.
Well, I think I know why he knew. But folks, for those that you don't know, that when Michael's background is that the UFOs started showing up when he was living in the Cleveland suburbs over Lake Erie, and he started videoing them, and then that ended up getting him on TV, on the History Channel, and everything else. And then he made a connection with A.R. Borden. And Michael also, he had his blood tested, and he found out that he had this special, very, very unique blood. And in the connections that he had with A.R. Borden, Borden was the one who was basically able to tell him what was going on. Now, Borden is one of these extremely gifted, bright geniuses, and he had headed up an organization called the ACIO, the Advanced Contact Intelligence Organization. This was a clandestine branch of the NSA, and they were basically the government operation that was working with basically the ETs, the UFOs, and et cetera, and stuff like that. So Borden was always out there working with these ETs all the time, so he understood all the stuff because he communicated with them. Well, then when he started working with Michael, I think, Michael, you had said that, Borden, basically, you were able to be tutored by him for the last 5 years of his life, and you had developed that very special relationship with him. But I remember you made this one comment that Borden had said, that he said, everything that we saw on Star Trek 30 years ago, he and his colleagues, they do it all for real. So yes, they could for real time travel. They could for real teleport their bodies, beam me up, Scotty. They could do all of this kind of stuff. Well, you know what I think, Michael, is that when he wrote that to you, was it 11 years ago? I think he probably had one of those timelines, futures, that he could see it, and he saw it happening in the future, but he wrote it to you in basically kind of a coded format and didn't come right and say, hey, I saw this, for you 10 years down the road. Because he had that ability to time travel and to look out into the future and know what was going to happen. I think that's what happened, with him and the relationship that you had with him. But we're now seeing,
perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, he probably saw it, is what it was. Because as I said, they had the time travel machines, they had the future time machines, they could see the time probabilities, and and then he ended up writing that to you, saying this is what's going to happen to you. And here we are now, 10, 11 years later, and this is what's taking place. And we haven't even, I should say you, Michael, haven't even begun to understand the full extent of what these coasters and discs are going to be able to do. Folks, I could not express to you how important it is that you basically drink your water after it's been setting on the stuff, because water is the source of life for us. And when you're now bringing the life energy back into the water, you're drinking water that has life energy in it. And when you are drinking this water of life energy, you're starting to shut down diseases, sicknesses, etc., and you're bringing a healthiness to your body that doesn't come from any other means. And we just don't understand that, for basically decades now, we've been drinking dead water that comes out of municipal water systems, and we didn't understand that. And this is one of the ways that you can bring that life energy back into the water. And I've already got lots of testimonies from people that are saying that they're feeling the difference. I'm feeling the difference. So that's where A.R. Borden comes in, because he was the one that basically had led you into this with what was taking place here. So, okay. So with that, then, Michael, go ahead.
What he said was, in that letter to Michael, by the way, if anyone wants to look at any of these documents, there's a Facebook group called The Writings of A.R. Borden that me and a few of the other team members started. So we had a place to library all of the documentation we received by from the Alien Contact Interface Organization. Because we were tasked to learn some remote viewing techniques, and because of our bloodline being Anunnaki-human hybrids, which were known as the Nephilim, which we get into this too because it's being revealed to the world that I'm Seneca and Erie Native American Indian, and these bloodlines intertwined into the Native American Indians. Mm-hmm. But AR said that one day I will invent something that will not be debatable. He said a picture is worth a billion words, and that's what we got back from the biophysicists was actual photography from their special microscopes to be able to look at how much energy is in a droplet of water. What they found was it's really amazing that in certain places of the planet where their water is very pure and clean and it's not had a lot of contact with human beings, that the Aboriginal people in those areas live really long lives. They live 120, 130 years easily. And they said truly what we don't understand because we killed our water, that we die when we're 60 or 70, truly out of dehydration. The water we're drinking does not have any energetic qualities or signature left to it. So the ability to actually, I call it resurrecting, dead tap water back into its divine signature is truly a blessing that it's kind of off the scope of the implications of how big this is, because you've seen the video I sent of the doctors where they took a blood sample from this guy's finger,
right?
And all the blood cells are like stuck together. They're coagulated. It's stagnant. There's no movement. And then they just had him drink one Dixie cup full of structured water. Now, mind you, like I said, this is structured water in the way that they've known how to do it till now. Somehow this 432 technology is creating a focused beam of energy within the water molecule. But even regular structured water, they had him drink a Dixie cup full, they pinpricked his finger, and then 12 minutes later, they took another sample. Now every blood cell has an energy force field around it. It's like cushions, it's like bumper cars now. They're all bouncing off of one another. And it said when it becomes stagnant, that's what creates heart disease and creates diabetes, creates all these health issues. So this alone, drinking highly energized, I just call 432 water now. It brings back a vibrance back into your body, which now you can attest to as well. And boy, I love it. I have what's the gentleman's name that does the water bottles, the dark blue?
Richard. Richard does the.
Yeah, Richard.
Right.
I am such a big fan of his water bottles as well, because that and a coaster makes a combo, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I have one filled up constantly in the refrigerator, and I just go and drink out of it.
Yeah, I'm showing that bottle here on the video now. Richard, I'm going blank on his last name. He's always at all the workshops. These bottles, they structure the water. And then when you take and put water in this bottle and then put it on top of Michael's coaster, then it brings the energy back into it stronger than ever before. See, what structured water is is because when water basically, again, it goes through, the filtration systems, the chemicals, and the pipe systems, the water coagulates. The water cells, they stick together. And what the structuring does, it breaks all the cells apart so the body takes the water in better. And then when you add the disc to it, it adds the life energy back to it. And Michael, you're absolutely right. I think they have just started to understand what this is going to do. And when the scientific and the medical world catches on to what this is doing, we're going to find massive drops in, heart disease issues, blood-related sicknesses, and all kinds of stuff like that, because your blood is now being energized again with the life energy water that we haven't been doing for decades. And that's why you're going to see us, you're going to find us, we're going to be able to, if we start drinking this water with the coaster and do that as much as possible, we're going to find ourselves living to be 100 to 120, 130 years old because of this shift and change and the new advancements that's coming in medicine for us. I mean, I'm already planning that I can live to be 130 years old if I want to. That means I'm kind of...
Yeah. It's part of the Templar, King Solomon's treasure of mankind.
Yeah.
We talked about that, but it's truly, from what I've heard from upstairs, is this is preparation for a global reset. And who cares if you got all of a sudden all kinds of wealth and you're going to die when you're 60 or 70?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, let's take care of what's important first, and that's our health. And this is the easiest. I can do these coasters for $29 now, and they're mind-blowingly awesome quality. In the last years, they'll have absolute fresh, divine water that's returned its energetic state. And this is provable by today's leading science now for $29, and then I do have, up from there, I have pendants that have the image that you can wear, and those are $40. And then up from there is the crystal discs, and I recommend those for Reiki masters, people who work with energy, because you hold it in your hand and it's a little bit more amplified, version of that. But for water restructuring, I think the coaster was just a eureka moment. You know what I mean? I was like, well, let me tell you how all this came about. First of all, why I first thought of doing a coaster. And that was, following the Anunnaki's advice in 2432 and hiring the scientist to image my guitar, tune properly. And I had been studying this art of making crystal, they were called Pleiadian healing discs. And they were, was a gentleman named Greg Plasko who got a download from the Pleiadians of how to do this. And they said the most important thing was the sacred geometry that was inside the quartz crystal glass, and to use really awesome, nice sacred geometry. Well, I had learned this from an apprentice of this guy, and I learned the art form, but simultaneously, what had happened was, in 2008, when I met the Anunnaki, I'm talking face to face now, it wasn't channeling or anything like this. They told me that they were once known as the Anunnaki, and I was once known as Inky, the water bearer. Well, there was no ancient aliens on TV at that time. I didn't know what an Anunnaki even was. Certainly didn't know who Ia, which now I found out, by the way, means grandfather in Native American Indian. That the oldest word for grandfather in Dakota is Iada. And the same word that grandmother told me for grandfather ends in L-A in Lakota, D-A in Dakota, and N-A in Dakota. She said, for instance, the word grandfather is Iada. I went, oh, well, they told me I was known as Ia. But water bearer, for all this time, I never knew what that meant. Like, it made no sense to me because it's not my kind of mythology or anything. But now, because of this technology that resurrects dead water and brings it back to its divine blueprint, I could look someone in the eye and go, am I the water bearer? Yes, I am,
Yes.
So a lot of things have taken a long time for confirmation of what they told me, but So because of this, I asked them to, in 2009, I said, if you are who you say you are, and I am who you say I am, encode the name EXE into a crop circle. And I just let it go. No magic crop circle showed up. For 2 years it did show up. We can get into that. But during that time, they started to guide me into this 432 subject matter. And I really got to the point where I had tracked down every note of the musical scale tuned properly and had its matching cymatic image. Cymatics is the new science of making frequency visible. And like you said, what they can do is pump frequency or waveform through water, and then they have a high-tech camera that can record what's happening on the surface of the water. And so because I was studying this, and I learned, on the other hand, this art form of making these Pleiadian healing discs, I thought, why use computer-generated sacred geometry when I can use the most encoded sacred geometry that this planet has to offer, and that's Mother Nature's sacred geometry. If you follow, it's like, why not use a cymatic image created by nature? And once you see how encoded these images, these water cymatic images are anyhow, meaning you can overlay like a flower of life, or the seed of life, over top of one of these water images, you'll just see it's totally encoded. So I thought, well, why don't I mix my peanut butter in their chocolate, And I made the first energy disc made from a cymatic image. And it blew my mind right when I made it. I could feel it, the energy in my hands. So how this all leads to getting to, that's the biophysicist looking into this was, I was at a conference once, and there was a gentleman who had a business of clean maple water. What maple water is they found out while making maple syrup, they would tap the bottom of the tree and water would come out. And farmers would just use it as scrap water, but they found out it's one of the most filtered and clean waters on the planet. So he started a business where he would sell this maple water at these conferences, and it was delicious, by the way. And he became a dear friend. I found out he truly wasn't from here. Imagine that. But one day he called me over and he said, Michael, I got to show you what your disc is doing to water. And he said, I'd never seen the effects other than running water through really high magnetic fields. He said, I've never seen anything like this. And I had 4 friends with me. I was one of 4. And he took a paper cup and he poured about an inch in each glass of our cups. And he said, I want you to take a sip, but don't pay attention to the taste. Oh my goodness, pay more attention to the texture of the water, like how thick it is. So we all took a sip, and then he took the cup and put it on the crystal 432 disc that I gifted him. And he only left it about 7-8 seconds. He said, that's all it takes. And then he handed it back to me. Sure enough, all 4 of us could tell a huge difference. Well, then and there, I started thinking, well, wait a minute. I asked him, what's your opinion on what's creating the effect? Is it the crystal? Is it the copper wrap? He said, no, it's the image. He said, this image is so encoded. You can take this into account of like pyramid power, right? That a pyramid has innate subtle energy properties. Well, he said that this image is so encoded with subtle energy properties that it's just putting out a field of energy. So that's the first time I thought, well, why don't I just make a coaster, So that was the first time this came about of it being connected to the water field and the water bearer. I'll tell you what happened next was right before I was moving to Florida to be with my beloved Sarah. She said she is listening. She's probably on the hot tub. Hi, Sarah, I love you.
Absolutely, got to get that in. Yeah.
Chief Golden White Eagle, who is the chief of the Sioux, the Dakota. He's their spiritual leader. Has been on ancient aliens many times. Well, he's my dear brother from another mother now. He took me into the Star Knowledge family to represent the Iroquois and the mound builders at the Star Knowledge conferences. But he called me before I moved to Florida, and he said, Michael, I need to tell you what's going on here. He said, man, this gets deep, but there's a whole story of this individual named the Peacemaker. And the Peacemaker is the individual who was able to unite the 5 tribes of the Iroquois. There was 5 tribes at that time. And these tribes have been at war with one another for a very long time. And all efforts to unite the tribes into a union failed miserably. But the Peacemaker showed up from the Canada side. He was part of the Huron tribe. And he brought with him what he called the Great Law of Peace, and was able to show them, whereas these tribes went at their life's trials and tribulations with the arrow, he showed them the olive branch. And so a part of this story that is not known to the world, though, is Chief Golden Light Eagle told me that part of the unification of the Iroquois story was the union of the Peacemaker and this chief, who ends up being a female, by the way, because no one in the story that people know it's a war chief, male war shaman, and it wasn't. It was a female Pleiadian called the White Buffalo Castellan. And she, in the story, defected away from her people and moved to a land of alligators, swamps, and snakes, Florida. And he said that the Peacemaker made the journey all the way down into the bottom of Florida. And he said that's where, at this point, there was no fresh drinking water in Florida. And he said Ia Inky was the Peacemaker, he said. And when he went down to the bottom of Florida, it's in Miami, by the way, he said that he brought forth the first spring, freshwater underground aquifer spring, which became known as the Fountain of Youth. And he said that it's not what people think it is. It's actually on private land, and he said, I'm one of 3 people on the planet that knows the true, where the first Fountain of Youth was brought up. And it's interesting because what was told to me right away was there is lots of underground spring aquifers here in Florida. It's like a lot of them when you start looking into the subject. All of these underground fresh spring aquifers were brought up by Inky for his mother to have clean, fresh drinking water, because surrounding each side of Florida is nothing but salt water.
Right.
There was no fresh drinking water. So Chief Golden Light Eagle said he was taken there by some Iroquois chiefs and elders. He said what blew his mind was they were only about 50 feet away from the ocean. And he's like, how can 50 feet of soil be holding back an ocean? I mean, this is absolutely no salt at all, most fresh drinking water. And he said that they weren't allowed to take any water out of it, but they were allowed to bathe their shamanic healing instruments, their tools, their feathers, their shakers. They were allowed to bathe their medicine in the water, and then those shamanic tools would bring forth the attributes of the Fountain of Youth water out into the real world. Like when they did ceremony, or they would feather someone down with their feather, they were actually bathing them in energy of divine water, holy water. So he said, what I want you to know is your 432 discs are your shamanic healing tool. I am an officially recognized member of the Serpent Clan, which, the full force Gump thing with how this is unfolding in my life. When I was announced as an official member of the Serpent Clan by the Serpent Clan grandmother, her name is Terry Rivera, I didn't know what the Serpent Clan even was. So about 5 months later, now mind you, it was a really nice, beautiful ceremony. She sang a song to each one of my chakras, and announced that I was an officially recognized circuit plane member. Then 5 months later, I was with Chief O'Leary Eagle at a Star Knowledge conference. I said, Chief, what's it mean to be, what is the serpent clan? He said, that is those of us that have galactic heritage. So that made sense.
Wow. Yeah.
So he tells me I'm to go to these springs and do a water blessing ceremony, and which I've begun to work, obviously. And he said that since these are my shamanic tool, these energy devices, because what a shamanic tool is to a Native American Indian medicine man is they have had to have made it with their own 2 hands. Their energy is in it. That image was played into existence by me. It's literally, and I've created each one by hand. That's my shamanic tool, and now because of it having a different delivery system, that in the past all they had was feathers and whatnot. Now these devices are going out all over the world, you know. And he said that once I did these water blessing ceremonies, which is really bathing a crystal disc springs, and it would, through almost like quantum entanglement, right? It would infuse of divine fresh water into the disc and vice versa. So what it hits me is, like Dr. Emoto, I'm sure the listeners are familiar with his work. He showed that water takes on thought form. Like if you take "I love you" to a bottle of water and then you freeze it, as it crystallizes, it would create perfect snowflakes and lots of facets to reflect light off of. But if you take "I hate you," you can't do that to a bottle of water. It looks like sludge when the molecule froze. So he proves that water is taken on human thought form, and human thought forms that do not align themselves with evolution, with the flow of life, they don't create geometry. So think about this now. If water contains memory, which they've proven it does, and all this water that we drink that's in a closed system of municipal tap water that's almost dead, it's taken about as much as it can take, you know? It's over and over again, it's in a closed system, so it takes on all the negative thought forms of humanity, and then it goes back into the system and it gets pumped right back into your house and you drink it over and over again. Well, what's it truly mean then to be able to have water that's been cleansed and purified at a molecular level? It's almost like taking a squeegee to the Akashic records that's kept in a water droplet if you follow. It's really, so I guess, here's the deal, is being a water bearer, like I said, now I can look someone in the eye and say, yes, I am the water bearer. But the grassroots movement I want to start is, let's all become water bearers. Because guess what? What they're finding out is once you charge a glass of water, that if you take one droplet of it and put it in another glass of water that's never been introduced to the 432 frequency, say it's in another state, whatever, all that water instantly becomes restructured and turned back into its divine blueprint. So what I'm saying is, what happens when all of us take a glass of structured water and take it to your local waterways, put it into the creeks and the streams and the rivers and the ponds and the lakes and the oceans, and we all do it. And what I'm going to do with people is take a picture of yourself dumping your container of water in your local waterway, and I'll give you a free gift. I'm thinking about making some cool actual meditation videos and have the actual frequency.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah.
Cleanse this planet, because here's the deal, all that water is going to sooner or later evaporate. It's going to go into the sky, it's going to become clouds, then it's going to rain down on this planet and cleanse all the water on this planet.
You know, Michael, let me mention, you know, you could also take your disc to these water sources and just put it down in there in that water for a couple minutes, if even that, and watch it begin to shift and change, because if I'm understanding you correctly, this energy, it takes off very rapidly. It doesn't have to be there for a number of minutes or anything. It's just it's almost like it becomes, once you've gotten a small part of it, it continues to feed all the others as well and restructure them. It's like you could go into a water source with your disc and just leave it in there for 5 to 10 minutes, and you could end up shifting and changing all the water that's in there.
Yes, indeed. I got to tell you something I just learned. Man, there's a lot happening behind the scenes, and I can't really get into it now, but agriculture, when you use this structured water in agriculture, its effects are pretty mind-blowing. Not only are the yields about twice as big of the crop, but they grow faster and they're impervious to drought.
Wow.
Check this out.
Yes, that makes sense.
They have technology that can measure the amount of nutrient value within the vegetable or the fruit. How many nutrients is in each square unit of however they measure it. They said even using non-GMO, the best organic fruits and vegetables that they've tested, the highest out of a scale that goes to 15 is right below 5. And that using structured water, though, they've reached about 12. So it's not only about plants being bigger, it's about there's more nutrients in the actual vegetable. So when you eat it, you're getting way more minerals and nutrients and whatnot into your body. So I'm in the talks right now with some people about getting this into agriculture. We'll just leave it at that. So all of these things are so exciting because it's great because it'll help us humans regain our vitality and our strength and our health, but it'll also do the same thing for this planet.
Let me take a few minutes here, and just for those who aren't familiar with your background, to explain the whole issue of your relationship with the Anunnaki and the Enki. Folks, what happened with...
That might be a good idea.
Yeah, because there are some people that aren't familiar with your background. What happened with Michael is that when, he all these UFOs were showing up for him, and he ended up being on the History Channel, they asked him, it says, there's another gentleman that has these same issues, and he's seeing the same, he's seeing the same UFOs that you are. His stories are similar, to yours. And it was the two of you that they had on this program on the History Channel. Well, he was discharged from the military because he had this blood anomaly. So the History Channel folks, they asked you, could we have your blood tested? And then so they sent you back to Boston, had your blood tested by the best Harvard medical professors, and that's when, the doctor...
I do want to jump in.
What's that?
They didn't ask me.
Okay, all right.
I just want to... they asked me if I come to Boston to do an update to my family, because I'm the biggest baby when it comes to needles. If they would have told me I was having blood work done, I probably would have declined.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. But after it was tested, the doctor comes out and, and you ask him, he says, what's up? And the doctor says, well, dude, you're not human. And I remember how you said that. Basically what he's saying is that you have this extremely rare blood that is not found hardly anywhere else. And Borden had picked up on that. And basically what it meant and what they said was that your blood and your DNA had basically exemplified that you were what was called a Nephilim. You're from that bloodline. You're an Anunnaki human hybrid is what is there. And then out of that, you had the experiences that you had meeting face to face with Marduk, who was, an Anunnaki himself. And that's when it was, revealed to you that you were carrying basically the bloodline or the energy of Enki. And Enki was one of the two primary sons of Anu. So I remembered when you first said to the Missy that you were the Enki, I'm thinking, you don't look like an Enki to me, because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, you got to be mystical, magical, powerful, and all this kind of stuff. And then finally, I think, you explained it as, no, it doesn't mean that I still don't have this human form. It means I carry his energy, I carry his bloodline, and then so therefore I carry these aspects. And what was known about Enki is that he was the water bearer. And that's where you're coming from this.
Yes.
And so as you taking on, the bloodline and the energy and the aspects of being the Enki, we're now seeing this whole history of the water bearer coming out, because I think it's, as we've said earlier on the program, we've just started skimming the surface of what this can do, because you just touched on it. If they start taking this structured water that has the life energy placed back into it, using that water for agriculture, it means all the fruits and the vegetables that are coming out of it have this life energy that's in them as well. It begins to be translated, because water is the basic energy source of our planet. We, humans, plants, we don't exist without water. And when you have water, you take the water in, the life energy carries over into everything that's having this water associated with it. This has the ability to be totally, completely changing our whole lives and health systems for generations to come all around the world, once people get to pick up and understand what this really is and what it does.
Yes, I think it has a lot to do. I guess in my mind, first of all, it goes to my noodle to think that this image alone, the potency of the 432 hertz frequency is so strong that even an image of it contains energy. But,
right.
Being in front of it, you know what I mean? Like feeling it, experiencing it. For instance, if any of us would go to a local bar, or a club, and there was a band playing, and they had their instruments tuned to 432 instead of 440, that everyone in the bar would be bathed in this frequency, and it would be restructuring all the water in our bodies. If you could hold up the coaster, imagine that's a droplet of water. Imagine if every cell in your body, every water droplet took on that sacred geometry. There's toroidal physics in the middle. There's the Fibonacci spiral, the golden mean. There's, as a matter of fact, the scientists that did this imaging and said, we have imaged everything with this technology, but we've never seen any result of what the sound file you sent us when we imaged it. They've never seen anything like that. So imagine once this grassroots movement of thank God Prince, before he passed away, he started telling people we need to redo our musical standard to get back to 432. Can you imagine concerts happening next to waterways that are tuned properly?
Yeah.
Because 440 is not going to do it. It doesn't create any geometry. Using this exact same scientific device called cymatics, pump 440 through it, what you find is no geometry. It's about the least harmonic frequency you could even pick. I got to share something because I am friends with who is an Arcturian ambassador. And he said, Michael, you know how the ancients left us this idea of multiplying or dividing a whole unit by 12, whether it's 12 inches in a foot, 12 hours in a day. By the way, look at how many seconds was in 12 hours, 43,200. 432 again. But he said, let's take today's musical standard and divide it by 12. So we took 440 and divided it by 12. What you get is 36.666. It's not random, but he looked at it and he goes, look at that. It's pretending to be sacred geometry while still being an imposter. Because if it was 439 or 441, it wouldn't have had that long string of remainders that's perfect sixes. Which is pretty interesting because I'll tell you, if you take 432 and divide it by 12, you get 36. Right. And a perfect whole number. So it's almost like the number of the beast, right? You take the perfect number and add the number of the beast to it, and it's 440. It's just the math that how it works out. I think that's pretty interesting in itself. But so as I said, all 432 numbers equal 9. Whether it's 432 is 9, it's lower octave 216 9, 108 1 plus 8 is 9. so on and so forth. And by the way, when you keep going down to the lower octaves, when you get to 27 hertz, which is 4 octaves below 432, but you'd never have a 27 hertz frequency if you were not tuned properly 4 octaves up. That put through one of these scientific devices creates a perfect 7-pointed star. So every 7-pointed star you see, which is the Cherokee tribe, Native American Indians, is a 7-pointed star. When you find the world map in Babylon, sits in a museum right now, it's a 7-pointed star. We can get into this, but it's like they've been trying to drip feed us and wait for us to wake up by encoding 432-based mathematics and physics in pyramids. I got all this research. It blows my mind because it's encoded in the pyramids. It's encoded in the ancient mound sites here in North America. It's encoded in our time. It's encoded in the precessional cycle. It's encoded in all these ancient sites. Look into Graham Hancock's work and how he shows that all of these ancient sites are encoding precessional cycle numbers, because it's a very specific number and how it breaks down, and all these sites are encoding it. So when now it's a whole brand new understanding that all these precessional cycle numbers that are encoded all over the planet are also 432 based numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And so that becomes, as the Anunnaki messenger, right? Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm getting of course, someone's trying to call me on the other side.
Okay.
Being their messenger, by the way, we'll have to talk about this. My brother, Inwil, who I've met now, he said he wanted to bring star knowledge into Florida. And so I guess that's what we're doing.
Yep, that's it.
Anyhow, so the message from the Anunnaki is 432.
Yep.
So someone would say, well, okay, what's it do? Well, we can tell you one thing it does now. It resurrects dead tap water. Like you said, I think the implications, first of all, it's putting forth communication, and water is responding. What if that's a new kind of 5K? 5G, I'm sorry, 5G, that's not destructive, and a whole brand new way of sending communication. I think that's what Tesla was onto anyhow, of using these cosmic frequencies, because not only is 432 based frequencies programmed into everything, it's actually, when I say our reality is 432 based, I know that sounds all purple and like pie in the sky, new age bullshit, excuse my language, but it's not. When you look at the moon is 1,080 miles across. That's 2 octaves below 432. The sun is 8,640 miles across. That is 432 times 2. It's encoded into the pyramid, meaning that if you take the height of the pyramid and multiply it by 43,200, you get the diameter straight up and down of the Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you go to the base perimeter of the pyramid and multiply it by 43,200, you get the circumference of the planet perfectly. And people know that the pyramids were also directly in all 4 land masses, directly in the middle, and it's coordinated to north, east, south, and west perfectly. But what people might not know is they found out that everyone thinks the pyramid only has 4 sides. Obviously there's a bottom, but the part that you can see above ground is 4 sides. And Graham Hancock has that exterior angle of the pyramid at 51.86 degrees. But what they realized is there's a hidden angle that only reveals itself twice a year. It's on the spring and fall equinox. And only on those days you can see how the sun hits the pyramid that it's 8-sided. So the missing angle, mind you, everything is based on the 7-pointed star, right? And what you need to know is if you just divide a circle, 360 by 7, you get 51.428. 51.428 is forever tied to a 7-pointed star, which is forever tied to the 432 sequence. Because as we revealed earlier, 4 octaves below 432, 27 hertz, creates a perfect 7-pointed star. So I find out, I go researching, Graham Hancock has the external angle of the pyramid at 51.86. And this voice in my head says, Michael, you already know the hidden angle. It's 51.428. It told me to divide 51.86, divide 51.428 from it. Your listeners can do this. It blew my mind. It's 432.
Yeah. Let's do this, Michael. What I would like to do, I'd like to bring Blanca in, because, you know, we've been going through a lot of information. We've been on the program here now for almost an hour and 20 minutes. And she's, I would call her as that she's this absolutely wonderful, what I call color commentator. Okay. And I always like to let her share her thoughts and impressions because it's always helpful for the listener. So, Blanca, are you there?
Awesome.
Of course I'm here.
Yeah, of course you're there. Go ahead. Now, you and I, we've been listening now to Michael for about the last hour. Let's just share some of your thoughts and bring you in some of the conversation here.
Well, it's a wonderful thing to listen to Michael, and thank you, Michael, for all that you shared. If people are listening, and some may kind of be scratching their head a little bit, trying to keep up with all the different concepts that are being talked about, this is something that is very exciting to me because it's all about the new way human beings are going to live on their planet, the new way human beings are going to realize that they are free, the new way that the old structures are going to be discarded, let's say this way. We're no longer energizing these old structures, and we're bringing in the new. So that's what's really exciting about what you're talking about, Michael, and I think that's what's exciting to you too, because you can see we're turning the corner on the old matrix and creating something new.
You know, it's interesting because in the Wingmakers material, they always talked about by just listening to even the music that they would put out, that it would basically set the base and the foundation for almost restructuring your DNA. Well, all their music was at 432. And it's the energy that comes out of 432 music when you're listening to it that, and Michael, you alluded to that. You can imagine what it would be like if you were in this major, rock concert and all their instruments were tuned to 432 and they were next to a big water source. The energy that comes out of that. This is, I think, Blanca touched on this, is that this has the ability to totally shift and change us as humans and how we live our lives, our health systems, how long we live and stuff like that once they start catching on with what is here. So, and Blanca, you always come up with such great thoughts.
Times.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the quotes that you use and share, Dave, in your workshop is the Nikola Tesla, where he says if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And Michael, how would you link that quote to what you're talking about with the 432, with your coasters? How does that link up with that particular quote?
I think it is directly related to how 432 is related to E equals MC squared, which we got into. The 432 frequency mathematically is the only frequency that is truly a harmonic of light. And everything is made of light, everything. So once you understand the truly, a lot of very advanced spiritual practices are about spirituality of light and sound, you know, called the elusive light and sound. But truly, what it comes down to, even in quantum physics, is everything is made of light and sound. Well, sound gives birth to light. Once sound keeps raising its frequency, it eventually becomes light. And it's interesting because now scientists have just revealed that light can carry mass. That's been in the news recently. So I think truly it shows you what frequencies plug into the equation. When you run it backwards, 432 base frequencies squared becomes c, the speed of light, squared times mass equals energy. So you cut out the middle part and go 432 frequencies equals energy. I think that's what's being proven by the biophysicists as well, because as Dave was saying, you know, before and after, before there's no energy, after there's energy. By the way, I asked her, I said, where do you think this energy is coming from? Because obviously it's free energy. And she said, we feel it's coming from another dimension. But that was interesting.
You know, it's so interesting. Here
you to drink water that has energy from another dimension.
I know.
I don't even know the answer.
You know, what's so interesting about that, Michael, is the fact that, you know, this isn't, you know, basically spiritual woo-woo people that are saying that. These are actual scientists who are bioscientists doing the research saying, we think this energy is coming from a different dimension. They're even saying that.
Yeah, kind of freaked them out. I think it's funny. They're like, we have to know. We've never seen these results before, so we don't know really what the heck is going on. They said they call it phasering, which is a sound laser. It said truly light within the molecules is getting smaller and more focused, like a laser beam, when water is, you know, it's put into its field. Mm-hmm. Like I said, though, man, this is just the beginning because imagine the image, right? It's an A note from my guitar, and it's created the cymatic image, and now it's encased in quartz crystal glass. But just as easily in my studio, I can pump out a 40-minute video of that frequency that created the image, and now you'll be able to put on the video on YouTube, see the image in front of you, put on headphones and listen to the actual frequency. And each frequency, you'll find out, is attributed to one of the 7 chakras. There's 7 notes in a musical scale for it's the octave, and each note is due to it's attributed to one of the 7 chakras. So I think it's a new way of even. What I'm going to do in the very near future is I'm doing exactly what I'm saying. I'm going to be releasing a disc set of the 7 musical notes of the scale with its info about what chakra it's for, and it'll be in the color of that chakra. And interestingly enough, you know, the Native American Indians gave me the name Rainbow Warrior Eagle. And afterwards, this gets into chakras.
Yeah.
Don't mean to jump around so much. I've been told some people are like, and you jump around way too much. Like, sorry, it's a multi-dimensional brain.
Well, you've got such great things to share. Yeah. Well, how about this?
It's hard to keep it all together.
Yeah. Let me share a couple thoughts here. This information is very profound information. Now, what I had to do, I shut off the video recording on Facebook, but I actually started a recording on the computer. So I still am going to have this all recorded, and I'm going to put this out, you know, basically onto YouTube and into the newsletter after I edit it. And I'm thinking, you know, here's what I've learned, you know, after doing this all those years. If you keep your programs down to about an hour to an hour and 20 minutes, the number of listenerships is always much higher than versus going through a full 2-hour program. And so my thought is, unless there's anything really specific, I think, Michael, that you want to share with us, maybe it might be time to just kind of wrap up the program tonight. Because I notice about 70 to 80% of my listeners listen to it on archived versus live. And that's where the largest audience comes from. And this is such a great, profound message. I really want to get this one out. And I'm thinking maybe,
Dave, I would.
yeah, go ahead,
I would
Blanca.
encourage before we signed out that Michael gives his website so that people can
Yes,
order
absolutely.
whatever they like and take a look. By the way, I ordered coasters and I'm waiting for mine.
Okay.
Right on. You know what? Thank you to you guys. This is the kind of problems I want, but I've been severely backordered. I've got so many people. People are really responding, and this was never how I intended. Like I'm a guitar player. You know what I mean? So the business side of this, I've had to really rethink how I'm doing everything, and but the good news is. Tomorrow, all of March's orders are going out, and then off to see Dave and do the show this weekend. And then as soon as I come back, I'm doing all of April's orders, and for the first time in a very long time, I'm going to be all caught up. Because let me tell you, I can't move ahead because I have so much music.
Michael, you will be caught up after tonight's program. This is just going to add more to it. Now, let's.
That's michaelleehill.net, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
I do want to say, usually there was a blog, in my blog, I had all the info from the biophysicists. Right now, I have just received some of the photos. I have high-resolution versions of them.
Right.
And so things are being revised. She gave me a new quote to use about, for marketing and whatnot. So that will be back up momentarily. But yeah, check out the blog. There's a lot of info.
So, folks, if you heard that,
michaelleehill.net.
yeah, you can go to his website, michaelleehill.net, and there you can see, the coasters and the disc, and you can order them from there off of that site. And also on the site there, you'll see the pictures, that the scientists had done when it was dead water versus the water that it was alive and everything else. And I'll put out in the next couple of days, I'll put out another newsletter, and I'll have this, this video in it with this recording, and then I'll give the information that there as well. Okay. So, because
Dave,
go ahead.
Another thing that you all talked about, you talked about it, Dave, and so did Michael, and I have some too. We talked about the blue bottle.
Yes.
And if people are interested in it, I believe that's richardlivingwater.com if they want to learn about that. And then you get some really nice water by carrying the blue bottle and the coaster.
Yeah, Richard's. There's an S on the end.
Recommend it.
Yeah, Richard's Living Water, and I'll put that in the newsletter as well. It's Richard's Living Water, and that's where you get, those bottles. It's a violet glass bottle that restructures the water, and then Michael's, coaster, basically puts the energy back into it as well, and then you're just getting the absolute best of it, when that happens. So, with that, then, folks, Michael and Blanca, is there anything else you want to share with us before we call it a night tonight?
Well, we're not going to talk at length about this, but and it might be for another show, but what you were talking about, Michael, when you were talking the way the scientists were reacting to this, and perhaps we're getting actual images of tea and all that, it just reminded me of what the wing makers were saying about the grand portal, and, how science and metaphysics and art we're going to point to something very, very special, but that's probably for another show.
Yeah.
So I think you're right on the money.
So, folks, now Michael will be with us on Saturday at the workshop in Fort Lauderdale, and also Robert Dunlap will be there as well. Now, also, just a really quick announcement, I'm going to have Robert on the program next week. So all the big announcements he's making this weekend and the stuff that he shares, at the workshop, he will also then be on my program next week. So we'll be wrapping these things up. And Michael, obviously, we'll have you back because we're just starting to touch the surface of what we got here. And it's really great to be with you here in Florida. And I still probably need about another week or two to get all acclimated and unpacked and everything. But after that, I'll be making a trip up to see you up there, buddy, okay?
Fantastic. Well, looking forward to seeing you this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend, okay? So, folks, with that, we want to say...
Yes.
Right. We want to thank you for joining us on the program here, the April 24th program. And with Michael's information, this is just absolutely phenomenal information. And we will then see you folks next week here on the Sedona Connection. So thank you very much. Okay.
Peace.
Yep.